Okay, want to do a quick video yet, an update on the national debt situation itself, because the numbers for the month of February have come out in the meantime. They recorded a small surplus for January. I wasn't exactly surprised to see that, because not all government revenue, not all government taxes come in at the regularly or on an ongoing basis. Most businesses and individuals who don't hold a job but have to pay taxes, okay, that don't have, tax withholding out of the paychecks, okay, they have to do what is called estimated tax payments. These are due 4 times a year, and one of the months in which is due is January. Now, unlike most other economic and financial statistics, the tax revenues and the deficits are not seasonally adjusted. They simply report the raw numbers every month. Okay, so in the months like January, where there's a big revenue income because of estimated tax payments, the deficit tends to either be a lot lower or even a surplus, positive. This is what happened in January. Everybody was celebrating. Oh goody, we're up to a surplus. That was because of estimated tax payments in January. They only report raw numbers. I predicted then that the February number would be very negative again. And it was. But here's how that looks. The February number this year was over a $200 billion deficit for the month. The same deficit for February a year ago was more than $300 billion deficit, negative. Okay, hoorah, we've cut it down by a third. Does that matter anymore? No. Because first of all, as I pointed out many times along the way, long before I started doing these videos, is that for quite a long time already in the meantime, we have monthly deficits that are bigger than the annual deficits were for many, many years. That's true of February again as well. I mean, they were absolutely horrified when we got to the point a long time ago when the annual deficits were $50 billion. We now have monthly deficits in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Moreover, the national debt went above $30 trillion on February 2nd, 2022, on February 2nd of this year. That was even officially announced by the Treasury Department of the government. Okay. By early March, we were at 30,300 billion. Okay. Now, the $200 billion deficit for the month of February undoubtedly contributed to that, but the point is that we ended up adding $300 billion to the national debt in 1 month. What's the difference? It's called compounding. The national debt has been in deficit for so long already. The last time we were in significant surplus was in the late 90s for a couple of years. That's a long time ago, over 20 years ago in the meantime, that the national debt has been compounding on itself for a very long time already. Okay? And once a debt starts compounding on itself and you keep adding to it, like we have been doing over the years, it will start compounding on itself faster and faster and faster and faster. And that's exactly what it has been doing and continues to do. In fact, it's been on an exponential track for decades already. And that means eventually it was going to go past the knee of the exponential. It has done that in the meantime, in the last year or two. President Trump's stimulus package, every penny of which was borrowed money, and President Biden's stimulus package of early 2021, every penny of which was also borrowed money, contributed very significantly to that. Okay, now it is a financial exponential involving both income and expenses, so it kind of goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down along the way a little bit, so it's not a smooth exponential like you would see in nature when one happens, which is very rare in nature. Okay, exponentials in general are rare. But in nature they tend to be smooth, so you can tell exactly where the knee of the exponential happens just looking at it. Can't tell that exactly in a financial exponential because it's not totally smooth, but if you visually smooth it out, you can see where the tangent is. Okay, the tangent, and the knee is where the tangent is 45 degrees. In other words, it starts going up faster than ever, okay, into the vertical. Okay, and if one eyeballs that on a long-term chart, one can easily see that we hit the knee of the exponential sometime in the last year or two. Okay, which means in the meantime we are past the knee of the exponential. In other words, the national debt exponential now has a life of its own. The only way to turn that around would be to have massive surpluses into the future pretty much every month to work against the effect of the national debt at the rate it's going up in the meantime. Since, as is would be expected under the financial and economic and social circumstances that we were in leading up to this point, we are not only not having massive surpluses, we are having massive continuing deficits, and will have that more or less for the foreseeable future. We are contributing to the speeding up of the national debt. We are adding to it instead of subtracting from it, so the national debt exponential will continue. Which means in the meantime it is going up quickly enough that it is completely inevitable that it will go exponential. The only question is exactly when, because again it consists of both income and expenses, and neither one of those sides is, none of that is precisely predictable going into the future. So there's a little bit of wiggle room in the big picture as to exactly when it will go exponential. If we have another economic downturn, it'll happen more quickly because income will go down again and expenses will go up again, meaning the deficits will get even bigger again, the monthly ones and the annual ones, okay, which will accelerate the exponential. But even if that doesn't happen before the national debt actually goes exponential on its own, the national debt going exponential on its own will end up being an absolutely massive problem for both the government and the Federal Reserve in terms of keeping the economy going. And we're not far away from that point anymore, okay? So keep in mind where we're headed in general. The situation, frankly, unfortunately, in Ukraine is pretty much just the very beginning of it, okay? So, am I an optimist overall? I can be, in part because I know what's going on, so I know what to expect and how to deal with it and how to operate in that context. But excessive optimism is probably not warranted. People are going to be disappointed by what happens if they do that. And there's some reality checks coming down the road. No doubt about that. I suspect most people, at the rate things are going, will not be ready for that. Let's hope something can be done about that. We'll see. Okay. I intend to be doing some things myself. We'll see how successful that is under the circumstances. The things I'm talking about here are reality, and they are reality that is not going to go away. There is no way to turn the national debt situation around anymore. That is quite literally, mathematically impossible.